Good afternoon. Welcome to This Week in Turkey. In a televised speech on Tuesday, President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan said that an F-35 fighter jet project without Turkey was bound to collapse, adding that Ankara was being treated unfairly over the project.
An F-35 project from which Turkey is excluded is doomed to completely fail, President Erdoğan said, addressing the International Defense Industry Fair program in Istanbul. Turkey's plan to buy Russian S-400 missile defense systems has strained ties with the United States, which has said they would compromise the security of the Lockheed Martin F-35 jets. Ankara is both a prospective buyer of F-35s and also a partner in their production. Erdoğan stated that those trying to exclude Turkey from the F-35 project had not thought it through, and added that Ankara was rapidly taking steps to develop its own air defense systems. We believe that those who try to exclude us from a program of which we are a project and production partner still do not see where it will lead to, Erdoğan said. We have started to rapidly take the steps to produce our own national fighter jets. The majority of our Air Force's fleets will be comprised of our national fighter jets. In this regard, we also focus on unmanned fighter jets, the technology of the future, he added. Turkey did not and will not accept any impositions in the defense realm, just as in the areas of politics, diplomacy, and the economy, the president said, noting that throughout history, Turkey has abided by all its alliances and done its part. He recalled that Ankara first tried to meet its needs for air defense systems through its allies, but Turkey's demands went unanswered or were subjected to conditions, so Turkey took different steps. Well, there is such a process behind the S-400 deal we reached with Russia, President Erdoğan said. The US announced on March 28th that it had suspended the delivery of the F-35 fifth-generation stealth fighter jets to Turkey over Ankara's plans to buy Russia's S-400 surface-to-air missile system. Turkey took ceremonial delivery of the first two F-35 fighters in June last year. The aircraft was sent to Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, where they are used to teach Turkish pilots and crews to maintain and fly the fighters. Earlier this month, Turkey received two more F-35 jets. Currently, Turkish pilots continue their training, and the jets will be deployed to Malatya Air Base in Turkey by November.
Joining us from Washington, D.C. today is Merve Tahiroğlu, who is a research associate at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Good afternoon, Merve. Good to have you here again.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So let's start with Erdoğan's recent remarks. We've just heard them in the previous news video. He said that the F-35 fighter aircrafts, this project would collapse with the exclusion of Turkey. First of all, would you say that this is technically correct? Perhaps you wouldn't know, but what we're asking for here right now is the expert views on this matter. Is this a realistic remark, in your opinion?
So it definitely has a certain grain of truth in it, because Turkey is a very big a part of the F-35 production project. It's in part of the co-production aspect of this entire program. So it would indeed be very difficult for the program to proceed, especially and meet its production deadlines and rollout deadlines without Turkey. But that said, a lot of the production is already complete. For example, the planes that Turkey itself is supposed to buy have already been produced, and the most important thing, we don't know to what extent Turkey is actually part of the production, because we don't have those official numbers. But what we do know is that last year, Congress asked the Defense Department for a report on reviewing what it would mean to in fact remove Turkey from the F-35 program. And that report seems to have concluded that it wouldn't in fact derail the program, even though it would cost the program quite a bit. Now Congress has asked the State Department to come up with a follow-up report to the Defense Department's report, and we will see that this fall when they disclose it to the public. But it seems to be that it's the Pentagon's assessment that it is in fact possible to remove Turkey from the program without actually derailing the program.
Mm-hmm. So to paint a general picture of the F-35 versus S-400 showdown that Ankara currently faces, could you explain the main factors why Turkey found itself in this position. Why is Turkey stuck between Moscow and Washington, and how did things get to this level in the first place?
Right. Well, this is because of the S-400 missile defense system. Turkey has been toying with this idea of buying a non-NATO missile defense system. In 2013 to 2015, it was considering buying these Chinese systems. Since 2017, Erdogan has been intent on buying the S-400s from Russia. At first, a lot of analysts considered this a bargaining move, a negotiating move for the Turkish side, for Turkey to use these arguments that it's going to buy this non-NATO equipment to get a better deal for the Patriot defense system, which is a NATO equipment. And until this day, there are still analysts out there who argue that Turkey is still engaged in these negotiations, and the entire rhetoric on the S-400s, the deal being a quote-unquote done deal, as Erdogan said, is in fact still just to help Turkey's negotiating position and to get better terms, effectively a cheaper deal for the Patriot system. But at the same time, the S-400s are due to be delivered this July. So this is the deadline on this is tightening. We're reaching the end here. In July, some rumors suggest that President Trump is supposed to go to Turkey. What if the S-400s have already arrived by then? Then the United States will have to make a decision about whether it's going to actually impose sanctions on Turkey based on CAATSA legislation that prohibits states from engaging in major deals with Russia's defense sector. So it's not legislation that is focused on Turkey, but Turkey would in fact have to bear the costs of it. And Erdogan has been asking for a waiver on that. But we're looking at a very tight timeline here. It's basically between now and July that we're going to know whether Turkey is in fact going to receive the S-400s, operate them, and whether the United States is going to respond by imposing sanctions on Turkey. And in addition to that, what will happen with the F-35 program. But it looks like the United States is very clear that if the S-400s are delivered in Turkey, Turkey will be removed of the F-35 program, and the F-35s will not be delivered to Turkey.
Mm-hmm. And as you've also probably followed yourself very closely, James Jeffrey, the U.S. Special Envoy for Syria, was in Ankara this week, along with Washington's Special Envoy, Joel Rayburn, to hold talks regarding a possible safe zone in Syria and to discuss efforts to find a political solution, a political settlement in the country. What were the main outcomes of these talks, and how do you evaluate them?
So these talks have been ongoing for many months, in fact years now. Turkey has been pushing for this safe zone, in fact, since the very beginning of the Syrian civil war. But it has increased its demands that this zone be established since its own two operations in Syria, Euphrates Shield and Operation Olive Branch. Basically, Turkey wants to break the U.S. relationship with the YPG, which is a major part of the dominant part of the SDF force that the United States is engaged with in Syria. And this is why it wants to see the safe zone. Here's a problem with that. Even when the Americans do talk to Turkey and say that, okay, we can establish a particular zone, perhaps it can be 5 miles. At first, Turkey wanted a 32-kilometer one. They were saying it might be there might be a 20-mile zone. Then it became a 3 to 5 mile zone. Now we're essentially Americans are essentially looking to get Turkey to accept just a corridor rather than a zone that it would be administering or controlling, that would be akin to the Euphrates Shield zone, for example. So either way, it's going to be really hard for the United States proposals on this 3 to 5 mile or even 20-mile safe zone to actually satisfy Turkey, unless the United States really disengages from Syria and disengages from the SDF. And right now, we're looking at statements coming out of America American officials saying we're going to be in Syria for the long haul. That doesn't suggest that the U.S. partnership with the SDF is over, and it doesn't suggest that realistically that the U.S. partnership with the YPG is over. So even if Turkey can get this safe zone the way Americans and the SDF, all three parties agree to this, it's not going to really satisfy Turkey's political demands from the Americans. So it will be interesting to see how Ankara responds to these ongoing negotiations about the safe zone in relation with the S-400 deal, because there seems to be some negotiations surrounding all of these aspects, and we don't actually know what the outcome is going to be. But I think the statements coming out of Ankara with regards to any safe zone deal will be very interesting to see in conjunction with the S-400s.
Finally, Merve, we're told via official statements from both countries that the main purpose of Jeffrey's visit was to talk Syria, basically. Yet we also know that President Erdogan had a phone conversation with US President Trump on Monday regarding Turkey's purchase of the Russian S-400 air defense systems. So my question to you would it be feasible to perhaps think of a possible link between these two interactions which otherwise seem isolated?
Yes, there are actually multiple issues at play right now because we're talking about problems in the bilateral relationship on several fronts here, with the S-400s, with the safe zone in Syria. There's also the fact, let's not forget, that just on May 2nd, the United States lifted the waivers it gave to Turkey and other countries, exemptions essentially on the Iran sanctions, which allowed Turkey and these other countries to continue importing oil from Iran, although at reduced levels. So that has expired now. And all of these countries, including Turkey, are expected by Washington to replace their oil supplies from that are coming from Iran. We've heard the Turkish foreign minister say very clearly yesterday, and it is very true, that it will be hard for Turkey to diversify away from it. Iran is one of its biggest oil importers, and now Turkey is looking to potentially additional supplies coming in from Iraq to be able to diversify that, because the United States is looking at Saudi Arabia and UAE and its Gulf partners to effectively take over the oil production to kind of offset what the supply is coming from Iran, what sanctions due to the supplies coming from Iran. But Turkey, of course, doesn't have positive relations with these Gulf partners, so it doesn't want to buy that. So there are all these things that make room for negotiation between the United States and Turkey. I'm sure part of the conversations on Syria, of course, include the S-400s and the potential sanctions on Turkey that we're expecting because of the S-400s, but also questions about Turkey's oil supplies, how it's going to diversify, if it's going to actually comply with the oil sanctions on Iran, or if it's going to try to evade them or defy them in some way. I'm sure these are all parts of it. The problem is we don't really know much about it. The public statements that are coming out are not very informative for us. So as I said, the timeline on all of these issues is very tight. So we will see in the coming weeks exactly what the discussions have yielded, if they have yielded anything.
Thank you very much, Merve, for your comments and for being with us again today.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
This week we were joined by Merve Tahiroğlu, and she answered our questions regarding the latest in Turkey-US relations. And now we'll continue with our next news video. The International Workers' Day, also known as May Day, was marked by tens of thousands in rallies organized by labor unions, NGOs, and political parties across Turkey.
An application to hold a mass rally in Istanbul's iconic and historically important Taksim Square was denied by the governorship, but unions, chambers, and left-wing parties called on their members to attend celebrations at an open marketplace in the city's Bakırköy district. The rally, which brought together tens of thousands, was organized by the Confederation of Progressive Trade Unions, the Confederation of Public Sector Trade Unions, the Union of Chambers of Turkish Engineers and Architects, and the Turkish Medical Association. Meanwhile, the police said they detained 137 people in Istanbul on Wednesday for trying to hold illegal demonstrations in various parts of the city, including the central districts of Beşiktaş, Şişli, and Beyoğlu. Squares belong to the people. They cannot be closed off. Long live May 1st, protesters shouted as police hauled them away, covering their mouths. According to the Interior Ministry, over 300,000 people participated in the 138 legal May Day events around Turkey on Wednesday. Protests for May Day, the international workers' holiday, are an annual occurrence in Turkey and have in the past been characterized by police action against demonstrators. Protests have often centered on Taksim Square, where 34 people were killed during demonstrations on May 1st, 1977. Turkey's biggest labor confederation, also held a rally in the industrial province of Kocaeli, with banners warning the government against the plans to change the severance payment regulations. The rally in the southeastern province of Şanlıurfa, organized by the Memursen, was called off after a tragic traffic accident. At least 5 people were killed and 13 others were injured when a bus carrying workers crashed into a car on the Birecik-Suruç highway. The workers on the bus were en route to Şanlıurfa to mark the May Day, officials said. Meanwhile, politicians also celebrated the day with messages. I would like to commemorate May 1st, Labor and Solidarity Day, for all our workers who work and produce with labor and sweat, contribute to the development of our country, and I hope this day will consolidate our unity and solidarity. Presidential Communications Director Fahrettin Altun tweeted. Main opposition Republican People's Party CHP leader sent a message to his supporters for the occasion. I commemorate May 1st, Labor and Solidarity Day, with belief in the future that unemployment is resolved, business crime ends, poverty and inequality in income distribution is corrected, and the future that is based on production and job opportunities, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu tweeted. May Day first emerged as an event commemorating the labor of workers worldwide on May 1st, 1886, when a group of workers in the US held a massive strike for an 8-hour workday. Turkey's first official May Day celebrations were held in 1923.
On Wednesday, Turkey's central bank kept the country's year-end inflation forecasts at 14.6%.
On Wednesday, Turkey's central bank kept the country's year-end inflation forecast at 14.6% this year, 8.2% next year, and 5.4% in 2021. The inflation rate will fluctuate between 12.1% and 17.2% through the end of this year. The bank's governor, Murat Çetinkaya, told a news conference in Istanbul to release the bank's quarterly inflation report, saying that the improvement in the current account balance will continue in the coming days, and the partial recovery in economic activity was seen in the first quarter. Çetinkaya added, "We project the inflation rate will stabilize at 5% in the medium term under a tight monetary policy stance and enhanced policy coordination." The bank increased its food inflation forecast to 16% for 2019, up from 13% in the previous report. Çetinkaya noted, "Food inflation next year is expected to reach 11%, he said.
Czech football player Josef Sural was killed on Monday after the minibus carrying Alanyaspor players crashed on its way back from a match.
Josef Sural, a striker for Netherlands in October 2015. He held a prolific record in the Czech First League, scoring 30 times in 113 appearances for Liberec and 20 times in 67 appearances with Sparta Prague.
For the first time in history, 2 Turkish clubs will play against each other in the EuroLeague Final Four, guaranteeing a spot in the final match for a Turkish team. That's all from This Week in Turkey. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you again next Friday at 5 p.m. Goodbye.